be focusing on that. Thank you, Tiffany. I always forget that. So thank you. We're going to be focusing on that on these calls moving forward. Brooke and I had a meeting last week and we said, we're pivoting these calls to being more purposeful for you to bring out into your business and have tactical conversations and value that you could provide. So with that said, let's dive in. Tiffany, what are we going to share with them today?
Okay, so I have to ask the question, how many of you have been in front of a buyer who said to you, I don't want to pay a commission, I'm just going to go directly to the seller? How many have had that statement?
Max
Okay,
has,
3, 4,
Samantha,
5, all
Gail,
right.
Mary.
It happens every day. Every single day, somebody says, you know, I don't want to talk about commission, I'll just go directly to the seller. We know exactly what happens when we do that, do we not? Yes. And even if you don't,
Well, what happens? What happens, Tiffany?
you tell me what happens.
The buyer goes directly to a seller?
Yeah, what happens? I know number one, they don't get they don't get the best representation.
So
Because who does the listing agent represent?
the seller.
Right?
What happens to the buyer?
And if you want to negotiate, who are they negotiating in favor of?
They have to for the seller. They can't
Right?
for you.
Right? So what we're going to share with you, and some of you that were on last week at the end of the call, I like literally snuck it in and said, you're on the call, so you get it. Well, now you're on the call, you maybe got it, you maybe didn't get it, and now you're going to get the understanding of what it is and how to say it. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen.
Are we going to role play this? How do you want to do it?
We can role play it. Who do you want to be?
You tell me.
Look at Jen. She's so excited.
I am. You know why? Because this is what I hear from so many agents. How do I do this? How do I explain it? How do I get comfortable with it? And we're giving you the tool that actually explains how to memorize this and how to articulate it in your words. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And I will tell you, the only reason we have this is because a MAPS coach shared. So there is a benefit to being involved with a MAPS coach. If you qualify, you should do it absolutely. So here we go. I'll start us off. You can be the buyer and I will be the agent. Does that work?
That works for me.
And Mary, you know how much I love doing this stuff. So you ready? Here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I have 3 goals for you. Number 1 is to find the best house, to get it at the best price, to do it in a time frame that works for you. What do you think about that?
I love that. That all sounds perfect.
The reason why you should hire me as your agent is my proactive approach to find listings on and off the market, my ability to negotiate the best terms, my track record for success. This compensation I charge is blank because you all make your own choices on what you charge. For my services, there are 3 options for how this gets paid. Gotta pause, I gotta let people in. Hold on, sorry.
Oh, I'll do that. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, so there are 3 options for how this gets paid. The seller will cover the full compensation. The seller will cover part of the compensation. The seller will not cover any of the compensation. Where did we get that from? What's happening on August, what, 17th?
17th, yep.
Okay, so we need to know this. You will know ahead of time before we see any property if the seller is only conveying partial or none of the compensation. If that is the case, we will structure the deal accordingly to make it a win-win deal for you. Sound fair?
Well, does that mean that I have to come out of pocket for your compensation?
Not necessarily. Our goal will be to negotiate a concession from the seller to cover the compensation.
What if the seller says no?
Remember, every deal is a negotiation and it has to be a win-win or it is not a deal. Same as if it's always been. It's my job to make sure we negotiate terms that are agreeable and a win-win for you. My job is to make sure we get your dream home. Sound good?
We see a lot of agents doing it for less or even a flat fee.
Can I share with you how trying to save the 1 to 2% upfront can end up costing you 3 to 5% in the long run?
Sure.
If the agent's value proposition is their inability to negotiate, how well do you think they will do when negotiating for your best interest? And it should be their ability, not inability. Is that the type of agent you want representing your financial interest? Let's do the right thing and put me to work so we can go find you the best home at the best terms.
I think I'm just gonna go directly to the listing agent.
So what I hear you saying is that you want the agent, the sellers hired to protect their best interest and get them the best price representing you. Is that correct?
Not really.
How will they be able to be the fiduciary for both the seller who hired them first and you? Are you thinking they will double the work for half the pay? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's do the right thing and put us to work so we can go find you the best home and negotiate the best terms.
Great job, Tiffany. Now here's the thing with this. And if you wouldn't mind, Tiffany, if you could scroll all the way up to the document, the first of the document.
Yep.
Before we even go into ahas and any questions about this 1 minute value proposition, I want to tell you a couple of things. Right here at the top of this page is how you're going to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Meaning if you could memorize and internalize this conversation and you could make it sound like your own, you're going to win. And you're going to sound very confident and they're going to want to hire you. Why? Because in place of value, money matters. When you're able to explain that you are extremely valuable to them because of the service that you're going to provide, the money doesn't matter. Think of a time where you maybe bought something that was a little higher in price because of the value, right? Now think of a time when you bought something that you thought it was of value and it turned out not being valuable at all. How did that feel, right? So here is a way for you to take this conversation and internalize it. So here, can we go through this really quickly, Tiffany?
Absolutely. And if you notice, did I stumble a lot?
Yes, and I was going to say that. I was going to ask, do you think that Tiffany memorized this conversation yet?
Nope.
Not yet, because there's a process behind memorizing this kind of new conversation. When we're used to having the same conversation, it sounds easy, it sounds fast, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. When you don't, it sounds like you're trying to sell something. So in order for you to get comfortable with the new conversations that we will be having, here's how you memorize a conversation. And I encourage everybody on this call to do this. And it might not be this conversation, it might be the one for the seller side, which we're going to be doing in a future call. But this is a 1 minute value presentation. I encourage you to do more than a 1 minute one, but this is the one I want you to get used to for now. So for 1 week, listen to the presentation 2 times a day. Once in the morning and once at night. When it says listen to the presentation, Tiffany, what do you think it's saying? Just read through it?
Now you actually are going, in my opinion, you're going to go to your handy dandy phone that does everything for you. And you're going to put your mic on and you're going to record it and put it in your notes. Then you're going to go in your calendar and put in your calendar that at this time every day in the morning, in the afternoon for 1 week, I'm going to listen to that recording. Because if you don't put it in the calendar, it doesn't exist.
I love both of those suggestions. So read through this and record yourself. And then listen to it twice a day. After the first week, this is like a Couch to 5K program. After the first week, you're going to view it 1 time a day and then write out what you heard in the presentation, like write out what it said. It even says in here, it won't be perfect. You won't have it word for word. And if you do, congratulations to you. That's amazing. I wouldn't have it perfect for sure. Even listening to it 1,000 times. It's just the way my brain works. And then week 3, view it 1 time a day, write out exactly what you hear. says stopping the recording to be exact. So week 1, you're going to review your recording of it twice a day. You're going to week 2, write out the presentation from what you hear. Week 3, you're going to write it out 1 time a day with the exact way you're going to say it. And then week 4, watch it 1 time a day with 3 weeks script. What does this mean? Watch
With
it 1 time a
every
day.
script you have created, speak it out loud along with the presenter. So you're essentially what you're gonna do. You could take what we did, although I wouldn't. I would actually, so you have 2 options here. You can literally mic it through your phone, or you can hop on Zoom. And if you don't want to see yourself on Zoom, just turn the camera off and do the words. And then you can turn around and you can watch it. And week 3, you can, let's just say week 1, you mic it. Week 3, you put it on a Zoom and you record it. And then you're going to watch the recording and you're going to, instead of just writing it down, you're going to say it along with that person.
Any
And again,
questions? Oh, go ahead.
I have to correct, this came from another human. I have to correct some of the language in here, which I will do before you all get it.
This is a working document and we'll make sure it goes out to everybody. Yes, Liz, for sure. We share everything with you guys always. If there's ever anything that you guys need that you don't get from the call, you could always reach out to us directly. Here's the thing. Let's scroll a little bit down on this conversation and stop right there. The whole point of this presentation is to be very proactive and transparent with your buyers. Hey, Mr. Buyer, I have 3 goals for you. I'm going to find the best house, right? Or to find the best house, to get the best price, and to do it in the time frame that works for you. Are there any other goals? This is what I would ask. Are there any other goals you would like for me to focus on? Okay, you set that stage up. The reason why you should hire me as your agent, and we are going through these 3 things. My proactive approach to finding listings on and off the market. Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. If you are not actively looking for properties off the market and on the market and sending them to your clients, that's something you need to work on for your plan. Because what I would hate for you to do is overpromise that you're going to do something and underdeliver it. That's when you start breaking trust with your client, because then they start thinking, well, she told me she was going to send me properties and I haven't received one. Or everything that I get, it's already been on the market for a week. Why am I finding the properties, right? So if you're going to have a proactive approach to finding listings on and off the market, have that approach. The next thing is my ability to negotiate the best terms. If you don't feel like you are a great negotiator right now, what would you suggest, Tiffany?
Take a negotiation class.
Take classes. That's the great thing about Keller Williams. We are not short. We are not short of classes. We have a class for everything, including negotiations. So if you feel like your skill set is not at a 10 for negotiations, what I would write down right now is to go register for a negotiations class. If you don't have one popping up in your market center, what could they do?
Ask for it, or number 2, you can always find somebody that is a little higher up than you, and you can literally write a purchase and sale, deliver it, and go through the whole process. I can't tell you how much I learned so much more when I'm actually touching it, feeling it, and doing it, and not necessarily just hearing it.
Absolutely. Role play it with your family members. Or the other thing is we have a great resource on command called Connect. And if you go into Connect and you search negotiations, a lot of classes are going to pop up, and one specifically is in the Ignite material that is so good. It's so good. So all I'm saying is if you're going to rank yourself at a 5 or below, or even a 7 or below in negotiating skills, I would put that on my plan to really start working on it. The third thing is my track record for success. If you are brand new to the business, it's okay to say that you have a track record, because we talk a lot in we's. My office does this. We at Keller Williams do this. You have a lot of support behind you in your success, even if you're new. By the way, you most likely worked in another industry that had transferable skills that helps you with your success track record. Tiffany, what did you want to add with that?
And there's a thing called language of real estate. So if you go to your market center, whether it's your shareholders meeting or your all partners meeting or your team, whatever you guys call it, that information gets shared during your team meeting. So if you're not attending those, and those are great places where you can ask questions if, hey, I want to learn this, and they will take 5 minutes and have a conversation.
The third thing here is the most important one that I want to discuss and open it up for discussion. It says, the compensation I charge is X for my services. There are 3 options for how this gets paid. That wording is very specific. The way that it says, the compensation I charge is X for my services. There are 3 options for how this gets paid. Memorize that, because this is where agents will start fumbling and not know how to say it. This is exactly how you say it. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And words that they understand and you could articulate at a high level. 1, the seller covers the full compensation. And we don't have to have a discussion after that. Like, that's it. Number 2, the seller may cover a portion of the compensation. Or there is a third option that a seller may not cover any of the compensation. And then this next paragraph says and I know that we just role play this. I'm breaking it down because I want to open it up for a discussion. You will know ahead of time before you see any property if the seller is covering partial or none of the compensation. You don't have to have a discussion if the compensation is being fully covered, by the way. That's why it says here, if they're covering partial or none of the compensation. If that is the case, we will structure the deal accordingly to make it a win-win deal for you. Sound fair? Again, a great paragraph to memorize. All right, Tiffany, let's open it up.
So one thing I heard you do, Jen, and I want to point out is that literally her just seeing it and hearing it a couple of times, her language changed on how she delivered the words, but it said the exact same thing. So as you're building this out, there are like you instead of we, or adding that extra sentence she added. That's what makes you not sound like a robot.
I agree. All right, so let's open it up. How many of you have said something like this already in a presentation and are using it already? All right, so we're all new here. Oh, maybe a hand, Stephen, I'm not sure. So we're all new with this, right? How do you feel about it? Let's open it up for discussion. What do you think of it? What do you think of the conversation? And why do we think it's important to have this conversation?
I don't work for free.
Oh, Mary, you might be the only one here that might not work for free. But right? Well, here's the thing. I know that when I was in the field and had buyers, there were many buyers that I worked with. And guess what? They never bought a house from me. Yet I showed them houses from Gloucester to Westerly. And if you know Rhode Island, as big as we are, that's the entire state. That's the entire state of Rhode Island. And I worked hours with them and they bought nothing. So how much did I get paid for that?
Nothing.
Nothing. And that hurts, right? So one of the things I love about the change is we do have to have these conversations that we might not have had before. And we're more proactive having the conversations and saying, hey, listen, we're working together. Here's how it looks. Here's how I'm getting paid, because I don't get paid. I don't work for free. Now you don't have to say that specifically, right, Mary? We say how we're going to get paid. It's a little more proactive. Anything else? Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I like how it sets expectations from the get-go. So that way you can always go back and revisit it. So it's like, hey, like as we discussed during our initial conversation, here's what we talked about. Here's what we're gonna do to best represent you. I liked how you said like there's 3 goals I have for you. And that was really helpful just to kind of go over, just being like, these are my goals for you. At the end of the day, it's you're the decision maker. I'm just here to help.
I love that. Thanks for pointing that out. And here's the reason why it starts with the goals is because you have to build trust and value right from the start.
Mhm.
So why do you want to work with me? Well, let me tell you the goals first. And if I could tell you the goals and you agree with that, now let's talk about the compensation, right? Does that make, and this is like a quick one. I
Yeah.
encourage you to do the full consultation, not just this quick one. This is a really good one to memorize for those like on the spot buyers, because here's the thing, moving forward from August 17th, what do you have to have in place before you show properties?
Buyer agency contract.
A buyer representation agreement somehow, right? Indicating if you're representing them or not before you show houses. So how are you preparing yourself for that now? By practicing conversations like this. That's how we're going to be able to do it. So you have some time right now. It's only the middle of June, but how fast does, I mean, the year's already halfway gone. Can you believe that? August will be here in 2 blinks.
I know. I asked the question, what does June 30th represent? It's the last day of the first half of this year. Like, it's unbelievable how that happens.
Nobody wanted to answer that because nobody wants to think about that, because it's crazy that that's already where we are. We're already mid-June. So here's the thing, we have until August 17th to really work on this and get confident with it. I encourage you, if you don't have somebody in your market center to do this with on a regular basis, memorize this conversation, reach out to your office and find somebody, or connect with us. We're happy to connect you with anybody here. There's so many people in this community alone. Anything else you want to add on that, Tiffany?
No, and to everyone's point, this is the pre-conversation to the buyer consult. And I have which if you were on last week's call, you got a copy of it already. I have another tool that I'm just making New England that literally walks you through the whole buyer consult, and we'll be going over that over the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we will. So Gail, I saw that your hand might have gone up. You want to add anything? See if we could unmute Gail. You are still muted, but there you are. Okay.
I just always talk when we're doing your value proposition, which is what your buyer's presentation is somebody said to me at one point when I was asked to write my bio, I'm like, my bio, what do you want in there? Like everything I've ever done in real estate? And they were like, no, what makes you different than the other realtors? And I really took that to heart. Like, what makes you different the way you run your business? And this might be not so much for this first fast conversation. The conversation we're talking about right now is what I call the one you have at the banana stand and the Stop and Shop. When people say, I have my name tag on my little billboard, and people say, oh, you're a realtor. That's the conversation you talk about now. So at some point, tuck in, what makes you different? What makes you different? And I think that that's something to keep in mind.
It absolutely is. Thank you for sharing that, Gail. And Value Squared, the class that we are teaching, we dive into those things, every piece of the whole transaction and beyond. And we pull apart, how are you really being valuable? How are you setting the experience so high that everybody wants to use you and tell everybody else to use you, right? How are you doing that? So part of Value Squared, which I love so much, is it pulls apart the whole transaction from the needs analysis conversation all the way through past close. And what it does is it gives you the ability to set your business up so that way you could rinse and repeat and deliver that same high level experience to one client and 10 clients later. Because how many agents, and it might not be any of you on here, but I did this. I'm gonna say I did this because I did. I gave a ridiculously amazing experience to a client. And then maybe a month later, the experience I gave to the other client was completely different. Maybe not as high level, maybe not as bad. Like it was just a different experience because I didn't have a system set up in place to say, this is what you do during a needs analysis, and here are the next steps that you do. In Value Squared, that's what we help you set up. We help you set up so that way you know exactly what you need to do when you go on a listing presentation and when you go on a buyer presentation.
100%.
And you
Alright.
duplicate it. Oh,
We
gotta
got them
share.
for 2 more minutes, so we gotta
That
go.
was
into Sharon. That was fast. But you know what? How many of you enjoyed this conversation and this was worth your time? Okay.
I'll take
And
it.
assume the rest of you just don't raise your hands, but that's okay. All right, here we go. So here is the content for this week. So you go to June, you click on June, and you go down here and you click on the first one. Here's your bookmark. So the first one is corn on the cob. June 11th is National Corn on the Cob Day. There's nothing quite like the juicy, sweet taste of fresh corn on the cob to kick off summer. Whether you love it grilled, broiled, roasted, toasted, today is the perfect day to celebrate this delicious treat. What's your favorite way to enjoy corn on the cob? Do you have special recipes or fun toppings you swear by? Share your corn wisdom with us in the comments. And in true Brooke fashion, get your floss and napkins is one of the hashtags. So I'm a Mexican corn. I love Mexican street corn. That's how I eat my corn.
I just like, I like corn on the cob, but cut off the cob. That's my husband's job. He does it for me all the time. Listen, he offered to cut it off my.
And now he's stuck forever.
That's it. He's stuck. That and shucking lobsters. Those are the 2 jobs that he has stuck with now for life.
I love it. So June 12th, summer is here and we want to hear all about your favorite summer memories, whether it's the epic beach bonfire, your first ice cream cone of the season, or an unforgettable road trip
I
with
love this
friends
one.
or theme park adventures. What made those summer memories so great?
That's a great one. I love that. Please don't skip this one. You're going to get a ton of comments, and don't
Yeah.
forget to comment on comments and then private message people. That's how you build relationships and core relationships deeper.
And to
Right.
go back to like when you hear somebody give you a memory and you find out that whatever that memory is happening again, because you remembered that, you can actually send them, hey, did you know this is happening next week? What a great touch.
This one made me hungry, by the way. This post made me so hungry.
So perfect patio food equals chips and some type of dip. This week's This or That Thursday is all about which dip will grace your tortilla chip. Are you team salsa or team guacamole? Bonus points for amazing recipes of either. I am guacamole all day long.
I would go guac first. I like both, but guacamole first.
Yep.
All right, so that's the content. We flew through it. I understand that. You are getting all of that here on this call. Actually, right after this call, it's being emailed over to you. And Tiffany just dropped it in the chat.
Yes,
We
I
also
did.
have a winner for the day.
Our winner for the day
What are we
is,
giving away? Do you?
I have no idea, to be determined. It's probably, what is it, Jen? Do you know? I don't know.
Probably the first time home buyer book.
I'm going to leave that up to Brooke, and she will get in touch with whomever the winner is. And today's winner is Michelle Clinch.
Michelle, are you still on the call? There you are. Thank you for having your
Congratulations.
camera on, Michelle.
Well,
And
I'm
thanks
only
for
giving it
listening.
away to people with cameras from this day forward. Just saying.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Look at that. Spicing it up a little bit. If you have your camera on, you are eligible for a prize. Michelle, congratulations. We will make sure that we get a book out to you for being on the call. Please invite your friends on. We're going to be going over some really good topics and delivering some high value.
And just so you know, the more your co-brokes have buyers and sellers, the more transactions you do. We cooperate, right? So if you're not fortunate enough to get the listing, you may have a buyer for it. So to go do that. All right, my friends, have an amazing week. If you need anything, give us a holler.
We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.